just catch you up where we are really quick. So we're reviewing book 8 to push us in. We're going to read book 9 today. But basically, to this point, it sounds like you know already. Odysseus was off fighting the Trojan War, is on a journey home. We're not gonna. His wife and son are loyally waiting for him. We're not gonna worry about them because it's not really relevant in book 9. And actually, I feel like what we can say is where he is right now is he's on an island. He's been stranded on an island, is trying to get home. But he's met this wonderful group of people, the Phaeacians. They have been super welcoming to him, and they've promised him that they're going to give him ships to help him get home. And but before they send him off, they are kind of doing celebratory games. And where we just left off, he just dominated some of them in physical sports during their celebrations, and now they're doing some dancing. So they're doing dancing. He's not quite as strong as a dancer, but he's very much enjoying watching the Phaeacians dance. So, Ruben, you want to read what Odysseus says here? This is just a quick summary of book 8. This is why we're looking at the epic comic, and then we're going to look at the actual text in just a minute of book 9.
Young men's dancing, and you are right to do so. They are magnificent. Stranger, your manners are godlike. Come, princes and nobles. Let's send our new friend home with rich gifts to amaze his countrymen. Bring them to my hall, and we'll have a farewell feast. Euryalus, you should apologize and give him a gift too. I was wrong to taunt you, stranger, and I'm sorry. Please accept my apology and take this sword of bronze and silver with an ivory sheath to remember my friendship. Well spoken, Euryalus. I return your friendship and wish the gods' blessings on you. May you never have need for this sword.
Very nice. So he gets some fantastic gifts. You can keep going. There's nothing to comment here, but basically, so then they take him in for this fantastic feast, and there we have this bard, this blind bard. A bard, again, in ancient Greece is typically a traveling storyteller or potentially also a court storyteller, who is they lead evening activities. There's no TVs, there's no music, so they lead evening activities through telling stories, usually to music. And so he's a blind bard. There's questions. We talked about this last week, whether this is supposed to be Homer or not. And so he's telling the story of Odysseus's success at Troy. Odysseus begins to cry. Here he is crying. And the bard is telling the story of the Trojan horse, of which Odysseus is, according to this legend, the architect, or the architect of the idea. And so with the Trojan horse, I think is a story we all know. So and Odysseus starts crying, and then Reuben, you can pick up here now that there's words again.
Stop! It seems this song brings grief to our guest. Tell me now, friend, and hold nothing back. What is your name? Where do you come from? Why do you weep at these songs of Troy? Did you lose comrades there? So he's a veteran. Almost. It pains me to tell my story, but it seems you must pry into it, intensify my grief. Where shall I start? For the account of my troubles is long. I suppose I should begin by telling you my name. I'm Odysseus, Laertes' son. The whole world knows of my stratagems, and my fame has risen to the heavens. My home is under the clear skies of Ithaca. Now, I will tell you of the misfortunes that Zeus has sent me during my long voyage home from Troy.
Perfect. And that takes us essentially to book 9. Oh, Ruben, keep going.
New coasts in Poseidon. Now, this was the reply Odysseus made. I'm just going to go with Alcinous. Alcinous, king and admiration of men, how beautiful this is to hear a minstrel gifted as yours, a god he might be singing. There is no boon in life more sweet, I say, than when a summer joy holds all the realm, and banqueters sit listening to a harper in a great hall, by rows of table heaped with bread and roast meat, while a steward goes to dip up wine and brim your cups again. Here is the flower of life, it seems to me. But now you wish to know my cause for sorrow, and thereby give me cause for more. What shall I say first? What shall I keep until the end?
Okay, I'm gonna have you keep reading, but the first thing I want to make, so Michael, this is an old translation. It is in the public domain. That's why it was selected. So especially if you're not reading the text as well, it can be hard to fully get it when you just hear it. So Reuben, we didn't hear a whole bunch here, but what did we hear in this paragraph? One or a couple of sentences.
Banquets are great. Let's do this more often because everybody wants more wine. It's the best of all possible worlds, but now you want to know why I was sad, why I am sad, and you want to make me even sadder. Well, okay, what am I going to tell you first, and what shall I tell at the end? How am I going to organize my story?
Sounds good.
The gods have tried me. This is Odysseus alla continua. The gods have tried me in 1,000 ways, but first my name. Let that be known to you, and if I pull away from pitiless death, friendship will bind us, though my land lies far. I am Laertes' son, Odysseus. Men hold me formidable for guile and peace and war. This fame has gone abroad to the sky's rim. My home is on the peaked sea mark of Ithaca, under Mount Neon's wind-blown robe of leaves, in sight of other islands. Dulichion, Same, wooded Zakynthos, Ithaca being most lofty in that coastal sea, and northwest, while the rest lie east and south. A rocky isle, but good for a boy's training. I shall not see on earth a place more dear, though I have been detained long by Calypso, loveliest among goddesses, who held me in her smooth caves to be her heart's delight. As Circe of Aiaia, the enchantress, desired me and detained me in her hall. But in my heart I never gave consent. Where shall a man find sweetness to surpass his own home and his parents? In far lands he shall not, though he find a house of gold.
Sounds good. So
what am I sailing then?
Yeah.
Okay, recap.
I think it's pretty clear. So just a quick thing for Michael, if you haven't read it, it's just a recap of Odysseus' story until now. He's been trapped on an island with a nymph, blah blah blah, which we're gonna kind of skip over because it's not super relevant for where we're going today. But it's kind of it's a quick summary for them of what we learned in previous books. How after the war, he's been trapped by a nymph, blah blah blah.
What of my sailing then from Troy? What of those years of rough adventure, weathered under Zeus? The wind that carried west from Ilion brought me to Ismaros, on the far shore, a strong point on the coast of Kikones. I stormed that place and killed the men who fought. Plunder we took, and we enslaved the women, to make division equal shares to all. But on the spot I told them, back, and quickly, out to sea again. My men were mutinous fools on stores of wine. Sheep after sheep they butchered by the surf, and shambling cattle, feasting, while fugitives went inland, running to call to arms the main force of Kikones. This was an army, trained to fight on horseback, or, where the ground required, on foot. They came with dawn over that terrain like the leaves and blades of spring. So doom appeared to us, dark word of Zeus for us, our evil days.
So what happened here?
Yeah, they landed on a shore and slaughtered everyone in an outpost who fought, took the women, and then his men lived high on high on the hog, is that what the cliche is? Feasted and feasted until he tried to get them to leave, but they feasted so long that the army that was behind the outpost came storming along, and they were in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So,
and this is
so doom appeared to us.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And this is essentially the end of Troy.
My men stood up and made a fight of it, backed on the ships, with lances kept in play from bright morning through the blaze of noon, holding our beach, although so far outnumbered. But when the sun passed toward unyoking time, then the Achaeans, one by one, gave way. 6 benches were left empty in every ship that evening when we pulled away from death. And this new grief we bore with us to sea. Our precious lives we had, but not our friends. No ship made sail next day until some shipmate had raised a cry 3 times for each poor ghost unfleshed by the Kikones on that field. So they lost men because they didn't leave soon enough. 6 per ship.
Exactly.
I've forgotten how many ships. I think he has 12 ships, Odysseus. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Yeah. But no, yeah, 6 per exactly, 6 per ship, yeah.
We'd have to go back and read the book 2 or book 3 of the Iliad, or go forward, whatever. Now Zeus, the Lord of Cloud, roused in the north a storm against the ships, and driving veils of squall moved down like night on land and sea. The bows went plunging at the gust. Sails cracked and lashed out strips in the big wind. We saw death in that fury, dropped the yards, unshipped the oars, and pulled for the nearest lee. Then 2 long days and nights we lay offshore, worn out and sick at heart, tasting our grief, until a 3rd dawn came with ringlets shining. Then we put up our masts, hauled sail, and rested, letting the steersman and the breeze take over.
Okay, so this is great. So we'll open this up for commentary in just a second. What I'm going to point out here, so we've had, let's take a little break from the reading. This has been already an intense patch of reading. Again, we have an old translation, which I think is not the easiest, but I do think it's very beautiful, actually. I do enjoy it, actually, but it does help that I don't prep with this version, I think. That I just read this and I'm like, oh, I fully get it. So the first thing I want to say is we can hear the grief. I think one thing that should be coming clearer to us as readers, I think this is fair for me to say, from a literary perspective, is Odysseus's grief. First of all, the reason this has even started is he is sobbing because the bard, or the minstrel is the word used in this translation. The minstrel, the storyteller, the court storyteller, is telling a story, the story actually of the Trojan War, and Odysseus is breaking into tears, and that's what causes all this, because he's remembering this. And then, obviously, the war, we actually don't even hear about the war, and a part of that's because the minstrel just told that story. But basically this picks up essentially closely, in theory, at the point after the war, which is when the Odyssey is really supposed to be about anyways. And so we hear what happened after the war. They go on another island, and they lose 6 men per ship. And he's essentially a leader. And then they depart that island, and now Zeus has pulled up a horrible storm, and so they're really they're getting crushed there as well. So I think that I think the grief is supposed to really shine through here. So pause there and open it up for comments. Lots of grief. Zeus has whipped up a storm again. He's already lost men, so tough times for Odysseus after Troy has ended.
I might have made it safely home that time, but as I came around Malea, the current took me out to sea, and from the north a fresh gale drove me on past Cythera. 9 days I drifted on the teeming sea before dangerous high winds. Upon the 10th, we came to the coastline of the lotus eaters who live upon that flower. We landed there to take on water. All ships' companies mustered alongside for the midday meal. Then I sent out 2 picked men and a runner to learn what race of men that land sustained. They fell in soon enough with lotus eaters, who showed no will to do us harm, only offering the sweet lotus to our friends. But those who ate this honey plant, the lotus, never cared to report nor to return. They longed to stay forever, browsing on the native bloom, forgetful of their homeland. I drove them all 3 wailing to the ships, So this is the lotus eaters, the land where you just buy in through your hallucinations or bliss. Tied them down under their rowing benches and called the rest. All hands aboard! Come clear the bench! Come clear the beach, and no one taste the lotus, or you lose your hope of home. Filing into their places by the rowlocks, my oarsmen dipped their long oars in the surf, and we moved out again on our seafaring.
Amazing, yeah. So what is? You already partially summarized it, but what happens here essentially?
You forget about anything. You're totally enraptured. The lotus takes you away to a place where you would like to stay.
Yeah. After the storm, they land on an island where there's these lotus eaters, and some of the men try some of the lotus, and it's so delicious that essentially the people who eat it are like, I just want to stay here. I don't want to go home. I don't care about home. I just want to stay here and eat this lotus. Obviously, I think it's very fair to say that this reminds me very much of a drug addiction, right? And so, for me, I saw a couple of articles, but I didn't actually read any of them. But I saw, what it makes me wonder is whether this is kind of something that's known in the ancient world at the time, because obviously, whether there are drugs that are also in circulation that people get super addicted to, and they kind of lose their identities to just just pursuing the drug. And obviously it's plant-based, which is, it's not like a rock or something like that. So I think it's interesting, and I just wonder. I just want to throw that out there because I don't know whether that's and I don't think we really know whether that's a thing, and I don't know what most people would say to that. But I did see somebody else in the title that it seemed like they were exploring that very problem of an article, which I think is kind of interesting of whether because one of the things we've heard about the storm, blah blah. We're going to see some Cyclops today, and there is kind of one of the things that shines out to me when we get to the Cyclops part, for example, is you kind of have this combination of viewpoints that are partially seem to be based in reality. Like the Greeks really believe that there are islands of Cyclops somewhere. But in a certain sense, it's really not that crazy, because for them, they know that if you go to like Ethiopia or something, you're going to see lions, and stuff like that. So there's just different animals, and that a Cyclops is really so different than other, obviously they have the ability to speak in language. But apart from that, you kind of have this interesting mixture in Greek mythology of things that are different in other places because they're just different in kind of the way that different places are different. And then you also have like magical elements that we wouldn't really expect to come up in the real world today, but that's because there aren't really, like, we know there are no Cyclops because we essentially have a view into the whole world, right? And we know that these beings don't exist. But if you just had kind of the access to information that like a Greek person had, that there are huge chunks of the world that are completely unexplored by anyone that you've ever been in contact with. And so, like, coming across brand new sets of animals and plants that you've never seen before and no one has ever seen before is a part of experience. It's a thing that happens the more you travel. And so I think that's one of the things that really like jumps out to me in this chapter in like a different way, and it jumps out to me in different chapters of Greek mythology. In the next line, we found the Cyclops, giants, louts, with no law to bless them. In ignorance, leaving the fruitage of the earth in mystery to the immortal gods, they neither plow nor sow by hand, nor till the grain, though grain. Yeah, though grain. I'm reading that right.
Nor till the ground, nor till. I'll read. I'll take you off the hook.
Okay.
I'm better at it, like you said. They neither plow nor sow by hand, nor till the ground, though grain, wild wheat and barley, grows untended, and wine grapes in clusters ripen in heaven's rain. Cyclops have no muster and no meeting, no consultation or old tribal ways, but each one dwells in his own mountain cave, dealing out rough justice to wife and child, indifferent to what the others do. I'll continue on?
Yeah, keep going.
Well then, across the wide bay from the mainland, there lies a desert island not far out, but still not close in shore. Wild goats in hundreds breed there, and no human being comes upon the isle to startle them. No hunter of all who ever tracked with hounds through forests or had rough going over mountain trails. The isle, unplanted and untilled, a wilderness, pastures goats alone. And this is why. Good ships like ours, with cheek paint at the bows, are far beyond the Cyclops. No shipwright toils among them, shaping and building up symmetrical trim hulls across the sea and visit all the seaboard towns, as men do who go and come in commerce over water. This isle, seagoing folk would have annexed it and built their homesteads on. This isle, meaning he's talking to the people of Phaeacia, seagoing folk would have annexed it and built their homesteads on it. All good land, fertile for every crop and season. Lush, well-watered meads along the shore, vines in profusion, prairie clear for the plow where grain would grow chin-high by harvest time, and rich subsoil. The island cove is landlocked, so you need no hawsers out astern, bowstones, or mooring. Run in and ride there till the day your crews chafe to be under sail and a fair wind blows. You'll find good water flowing from a cavern through dusky poplars into the upper bay.
Yeah, well, I think the island that he's talking about is the island of the Cyclops.
Yes.
He's not talking about the Phaeacians island.
No, what he's saying is you guys would have annexed this. You'd have loved it.
Right.
They never left it. Why would they leave it? Because the Cyclopeans are already in heaven, in paradise. Why should they leave? There's no shipwrights on their island. They have no interest in leaving.
It sounds good. Yep.
And each man is a law unto himself is the other part of this. There's no community among the Cyclopeans.
It's just, it's one Cyclops, two Cyclops, but yeah. So here we made harbor.
Yeah, here we made harbor. Some god guided us that night, for we could barely see our bows in the dense fog around us, and no moonlight filtered through the overcast. No lookout, nobody saw the island dead ahead, nor even the great landward rolling billows that took us in. We found ourselves in shallows, keels grazing shore, so furled our sails and disembarked where the low ripples broke. There on the beach we lay and slept till morning.
Perfect. Okay, let me pause you real quick here. So this is great. So yeah, exactly like you said. Beautiful island. They land on this beautiful island. It is where the Cyclops leave, and that's basically what we learned from this big paragraph. Yeah, I think that's fair. So now they're on an island. They know Cyclops are there. It's beautiful.
When dawn spread out her fingertips of rose, we turned out, marveling, to tour the isle, while Zeus's shy nymph daughters flushed wild goats down from the heights, a breakfast for my men. We ran to fetch our hunting bows and long-shanked lances from the ships, and in 3 companies we took our shots. Heaven gave us game aplenty. For every one of 12 ships, 12 ships in my squadron, 9 goats fell to be shared. My lot was 10. So there all day until the sun went down, we made our feast on meat galore and wine. Wine from the ship, for our supply held out. So many jars were filled at Ismaros from stores of the Coconis that we plundered. We gazed, too, at Cyclopean land, so near. We saw their smoke, heard bleating from their flocks. But after sundown, in the gathering dusk, we slept again above the wash of ripples. So it's a very calm bay.
Sounds beautiful. Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very calm bay, and goats.
And it's
when the young
and
dawn
it's,
was.
and it's kind
I'm
of
sorry.
just super tiny thing, yeah. But building on that, so very calm day. I'm actually glad you pointed that out because so we've heard some tragedy. We heard we had this tragedy, and then they land on this beautiful island. Everything seems so great. We know he's already been crying. I mean, obviously he was crying about the Trojan War, but we did kind of start the book with a very negative. It seemed like a rough start to the journey. So this would be very, from a literary perspective, it would be a very short period of struggle if it was over. Yeah, if it was just over. Now they're on this beautiful island, and that's that. That would be a very short period of struggle, or a problem from a literary perspective. I feel like.
Right, not enough.
Yeah.
Book wouldn't have lasted. When the young dawn with fingertips of rose came in the east, I called my men together and made a speech to them. Old shipmates, friends, the rest of you stand by. I'll make the crossing in my own ship with my own company and find out what the mainland natives are. For they may be wild savages and lawless or hospitable and God-fearing men. At this I went aboard and gave the word to cast off by the stern. My oarsmen followed, filled into their benches by the rowlocks, and all in line dipped oars in the gray sea. As we rowed on and nearer to the mainland, at one end of the bay we saw a cavern yawning above the water, screened with laurel and many rams and goats about the place. Inside a sheepfold, made from slabs of stone, earth fast between tall trunks of pine and rugged, towering oak trees. A prodigious man slept in this cave alone and took his flocks to graze afield, remote from all companions, knowing none but savage ways, a brute so huge he seemed no man at all of those who eat good wheaten bread. But he seemed rather a shaggy mountain reared in solitude. We beached there, and I told the crew to stand by and keep watch over the ship. As for myself, I took my 12 best fighters and went ahead. I had a goat skin full of that sweet liquor that Euanthes' son Maron had given me. He kept Apollo's holy grove at Ismaros. For kindness we showed him there, and showed his wife and child. He gave me 7 shining golden talents, perfectly formed, a solid silver wine bowl, and then this liquor, 12 two-handled jars of brandy, pure and fiery. Not a slave in Maron's household knew this drink. Only he, his wife, and the storeroom mistress knew. And they would put 1 cupful, ruby-colored, honey-smooth, in 20 more of water. But still the sweet scent hovered like a fume above over the wine bowl. No man turned away when cups of this came around.
So what just happened, or what? Nothing happened really, but what are we learning?
Odysseus and his boat are headed over to the mainland. I guess we're like on an island or a bay or something. He's headed over to the mainland, and he's bringing gifts. He's bringing the best wine he has, or brandy, I guess, in the whatever this book called it, though, who knows. And it's so strong that even when you mix it 20 to 1, Oh, the mailman might be here. Even when you mix it 20 to 1, it shines through. I'm going to have to go mute if this continues. The mailman might be on the street.
Okay, sounds good. So there's a couple of little comments I'm going to make here. So the first comment is that it seems a little strange to us potentially that we're talking about mixing water with wine. Like why are they mixing water with wine? I don't remember if we talked about this or this was somewhere else that I talked about this, but what the Greeks would do is they would create wine that was very alcoholic. I don't know exactly how alcoholic, and then at serving time they add water. So I don't know exactly what the reason for that is, but in ancient Greece, you mix water with wine. A part of that is certainly so you have more wine, right? Because your best wine you add less water to. Obviously, everybody wants the more potent wine. But anyway, so the point here is this is really great wine. How do we know this is really great wine? Because you can add 20 cups of water for every cup of wine, or you can add 20 parts water and 1 part wine, and it's still delicious. That's some high quality wine by ancient Greek standards. Obviously, today, if I want a glass of wine, I pour it out of the bottle into my glass and drink it, right? But I don't dump in some water. That would be very strange. But that's just it's not how it worked in the ancient Greek world. So that's the first thing.
No man turned away when cups of this came round, meaning, everybody liked it. I guess that's where we finished off. A wineskin full I brought along, and victuals in a bag, for in my bones I knew some towering brute would be upon us soon. All outward power, a wild man, ignorant of civility. We climbed then briskly to the cave. But Cyclops had gone afield to pasture his fat sheep, so we looked round at everything inside. A drying rack that sagged with cheeses, pens crowded with lambs and kids, each in its class, firstlings apart from middlings, and the dewdrops or newborn lambkins penned apart from both. And vessels full of whey were brimming there, bowls of earthenware and pails for milking. My men came pressing round me, pleading, "Why not take these cheeses, get them stowed, come back through, open all the pens, and make a run for it? We'll drive the kids and lambs aboard. We say put out again on good salt water."
Okay, so 2 things. So my first question for you guys: we hear wineskin. If I'm not mistaken, that also appears in the Bible. Maybe I am mistaken about that. I'm not sure. What is a wineskin?
It's a leather bag to hold liquid.
Exactly. Yeah. So
usually with a strap that you throw over your shoulder. It's like an ancient form of a canteen. An ancient form of a canteen.
Absolutely. Yes. So it is literally a skin. It is literally a dried animal skin that is then used to carry wine. Absolutely. The archaeological evidence I have seen of those jars is that they're always very huge. Huge. Like I could wrap my arms around them like this. Like not very ideal for. You would certainly have some on your ship, so you could transport the wine with you. But it's not like a bottle of wine I can bring it and hand it to somebody as a present. I don't know if those also existed, but I've seen a lot more archaeological finds in showing huge wine jars than small little bottles that you carry around. And then the next thing we see here is they find some great food. So they find some great cheese. There's this book, an ancient Greek book about a love story. Most ancient Greek novels have a very similar plot. So that the Iliad and the Odyssey are a bit of outliers, but a lot of them, or I shouldn't say most, but a lot of them have very similar plots in the sense that anything that's romantic will have it's usually like a rich upper class guy, a rich upper class girl. They want to get together. For some reason they can't. Then the girl gets trapped, carried off by pirates. A lot of pirates in the ancient world, and so the guy goes on this journey to find her. Blah blah blah. And then eventually at the end, he probably gets his prize. So there's one of those stories like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's quite good. I can't remember it though, unfortunately. But anyways, there's this part about cheese is a huge staple of food in ancient Greece. So the quote I'm thinking of is something like, there's nothing that a piece of bread and cheese can't solve, right? And I from my modern perspective, when I read that, I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Like, there's nothing that a piece of bread and cheese can't solve. Like, how does that? But obviously, one, it means you ate, which food is to be assumed, but also it's not fully given in the ancient world. Certainly not on a journey like this when you're traveling around. Like, you got to figure it out. They find some food. They're like, we got to take this cheese and go. And 2, cheese is, I think also from a modern perspective as well, like quite a delicious food. it's something that's less expensive than meat because you don't have to kill an animal to get it. And so, after you kill the animal, unlike if you have, a primary source, said this before, Odysseus is very rich because he owns a lot of farm animals, which he's able to kill. And one of the problems with the suitors is they're killing all of his farm animals and eating up his wealth, like literally eating up his wealth. And so, versus cheese, that's like that's less of the case, but it's obviously a source of protein, right? So you get some protein. So cheese is just cheese, incredibly important food in ancient Greece. So they get some they see this and they get some cheese, and so Odysseus gets the advice: we should take this cheese and get out of here. We're gonna see if he takes up that advice.
Ah, how sound that was. Yet I refused. I wished to see the caveman, what he had to offer. No pretty sight it turned out for my friends. We lit a fire, burnt an offering, and took some cheese to eat, then sat in silence around the embers, waiting. So they're in his cave. When he came, he had a load of dry boughs on his shoulder to stoke his fire at supper time. He dumped it with a great crash into that hollow cave, and we all scattered fast to the far wall. Then over the broad cavern floor, he ushered the ewes he meant to milk. He left his rams and he-goats in the yard outside and swung high overhead a slab of solid rock to close the cave. 24 four-wheeled wagons with heaving wagon teams could not have stirred the tonnage of that rock from where he wedged it over the doorsill. Next, he took a seat and milked his bleeding ewes. A practice job he made of it, giving each ewe her suckling. Thickened his milk, then, into curds and whey, sieved out the curds to drip in withy baskets, and poured the whey to stand in bowls, cooling until he drank it for his supper. When all these chores were done, he poked the fire heaping on brushwood. In the glare, he saw us.
Okay, perfect. Let's pause here. So, you wanna summarize what just happened here?
Yeah, his men say, "Let's get out of here," and he said, "No, I want to see what this guy is." And he shows up and he drops his firewood, which is probably trees, and then he closes the door after he gets his ewes to milk, and then he something happens or other, and he spies these guys in the corner.
Yeah, so perfect. So that all sounds good. So couple things. So one, it's not just closes the door. He literally takes a giant slab of rock and puts it to. They're in a cave, so they found this cave with a bunch of cheese in it, and they're like, "This is great." So they're like, "Let's take this cheese and get the heck out of here." And Odysseus is like, "I want to meet this guy," so he doesn't do that. It seems like he obviously should, and he doesn't. And there's kind of obvious danger when you're you're in a completely unknown land. You have no idea who this person is. You're in their cave. You're planning to eat some of their food. Blah blah. So and then this is this huge, incredibly strong being, Cyclops, is also meaning one eye. We always imagine it in the center of the head, which I believe how the ancient Greeks imagined as well. And he puts up a giant rock in the center, blocking the wall of the cave. They cannot get out. And the weight is emphasized here. The other thing is the other thing that we learn about him, we kind of already knew this, but now we definitely know this, is that he is like a shepherd Cyclops. So like what he does is he's got a bunch of sheep that he tends to, and he makes cheese from them. So yeah, so that's not irrelevant. We'll see why.
The Cyclops speaks. We don't know the Cyclop speaks. We don't know his name yet. "Strangers," he said. "Who are you? Where from? What brings you here by seaways? Of fair traffic? Or are you wandering rogues who cast your lives like dice and ravish other folk by sea?" We felt a pressure on our hearts in dread of that deep rumble and that mighty man. But all the same, I spoke up in reply. "We are from Troy, Achaeans, blown off course by shifting gales on the great South Sea, homeward bound, but taking routes and ways uncommon, so the will of Zeus would have it. We served under Agamemnon, son of Atreus. The whole world knows what city he laid waste, what armies he destroyed. It was our luck to come here. Here we stand, beholden for your help, or any gifts you give, as custom is to honor strangers. We would entreat you, great sir, have a care for the gods' courtesy. Zeus will avenge the unoffending guest."
I have no comment unless you do.
He's basically stating that strangers are to be treated well, and that's just an expectation.
Yeah, please, please, but you should. Yeah.
Yeah. He answered this from his brute chest, unmoved. You are a ninny, or else you come from the other end of nowhere telling me, mind the gods. We Cyclops care not a whistle for your thundering Zeus or all the gods in bliss. We have more force by far. I would not let you go for fear of Zeus, you or your friends, unless I had a whim to. Tell me, where was it now you left your ship? Around the point or down the shore, I wonder? He thought he'd find out, but I saw through this and answered with a ready lie. My ship? Poseidon Lord, who sets the earth to tremble, broke it up on the rocks at your land's end. A wind from seaward served him, drove us there. We are survivors, these good men and I. Neither reply nor pity came from him, but in one stride, he clutched at my companions and caught two in his hands like squirming puppies to beat their brains out, spattering the floor. Then he dismembered them and made his meal gaping and crunching like a mountain lion, everything, innards, flesh, and marrow bones. We cried aloud, lifting our hands to Zeus, powerless, looking on at this appalled. But Cyclops went on filling up his belly with man flesh and great gulps of whey, then lay down like a mast among his sheep. My heart beat high now at the chance of action, and drawing the sharp sword from my hip, I went along his flank to stab him where the midriff holds the liver. I had touched the spot when sudden fear stayed me. If I killed him, we'd perish there as well, for we could never move his ponderous doorway slab aside. So we were left to groan and wait for morning.
Yeah. Okay. So, open comments. I have one or two, but anybody have any comments they want to make first?
Well, he figured out you can't get out unless he lets you out. He has to open the door. He has to unroll the stone. So that's we cannot take our revenge immediately. We have to plot our revenge, and now we are on Odysseus's turf.
Absolutely. Very good point, actually. Very good point. Yeah, we're on Odysseus's turf. That's very apt phrasing. So one thing I want to point out here is so we are to so obviously Odysseus has shown some hubris, but I think it's also very fair to say that he is very surprised by the Cyclops' reaction. So he wasn't expecting him to immediately just kill two men and eat them, right? And obviously that's true, right? So there's hubris there, absolutely, but we can also read that he is very surprised by the action. And he was. The point is, he wasn't expecting that. Like, obviously, you have to be on your guard. Blah blah blah. The other comment I was going to make was, I don't know if it was my translation or where I have this. If this is from mythology, I can't quite remember. But I am noticing here that this is not matching my expectation of the Cyclops being a child of Zeus. So I have a recollection that may be incorrect, but I don't believe it is, and we'll wait till the end of the chapter. But I already knew at this point.
He is Poseidon's son.
Oh, Poseidon's son. Okay, okay, yeah, that's right. And then he makes a pair to Poseidon. That's right.
Poseidon is it Polyphemus? What is the name of this character? This particular Cyclops. Polyphemus.
Something like that. Yes.
Poseidon is his father, so apparently at some point Poseidon got it on with a one-eyed gal, because would be his mom, right? One suspects that would be where the one-eyed issue would derive from. That's all. That's what Michael.
I see your point. I see. Oh, that is an interesting point. I've never considered that. Taking us back to where we kind of left off, and then the other thing was, so this is just a small thing. This is the first instance that we get of Odysseus' cunning, right? Because basically this story until now has kind of been tragedy followed by a bit of naivete or hubris on Odysseus' part. Followed now by some actual cunning. So immediately, on two instances, Odysseus, as soon as he recognizes the Cyclops for what he is, which is essentially an enemy, somebody who obviously is an enemy, he immediately, killed two people, blah, blah. But even prior to that, he started to sense it. As soon as he entered, he kind of sensed this is actually an enemy. Then he says, "Where's your ship?" And he says, it was destroyed. We have no ship." So right off the bat, instantaneously. And the second thing that happens now, again, is he intends to go kill the Cyclops, stab him, and he realizes that they will all starve to death in the cave if he does that, because he'll never be able to get out of there. Now, in my view, this leads to the question of, like, seems kind of obvious. It should seem kind of obvious to the Cyclops that, like, if the Cyclops is just going to lay there with no defense, like, of course he's going to do something, right? Like, it's kind of strange that there is no reaction while he's destroying killing the two guys, which is fair enough, because he's obviously just going to kill you. What is your real choice? But then it's like, and then the Cyclops just decides to lay there completely defenseless afterwards, which I'm like, well, okay, that's but I feel like that kind of jump is the kind of jump that happens a lot in ancient Greece or in ancient Greek literature, that you're just kind of like, and then the Cyclops just chooses to just lay down completely defenseless, and the answer is yes. So yeah.
When the young dawn with fingertips of rose lit up the world, the Cyclops built a fire and milked his handsome ewes, all in due order, putting the sucklings to the mothers. Then his chores being all dispatched, he caught another brace of men to make his breakfast, and whisked away his great door slab to let his sheep go through. But he, behind, reset the stone as one would cap a quiver. There was a din of whistling as the Cyclops rounded his flocks to higher ground, then stillness. And now I pondered how to hurt him worst, if but Athena granted what I prayed for. Here are the means I thought would serve my turn. A club or staff lay there along the fold. An olive tree fell to green and left a season for Cyclops' hand. And it was like a mast, a lugger of 20 oars, broad in the beam, a deep seagoing craft might carry. So long, so big around, it seemed. Now I chopped out a 6-foot section of this pole and set it down before my men, who scraped it. And when they had it smooth, I hewed again to make a stake with pointed end. I held this in the fire's heart and turned it, toughening it, then hid it well back in the cave under one of the dung piles in profusion there. Now came the time to toss for it. Who ventured along with me? Whose hand would bear to thrust and grind that spike in Cyclops' eye when mild sleep had mastered him? As luck would have it, the men I would have chosen won the toss. 4 strong men, and I made 5 as captain.
Sounds good. I think
At evening came the shepherd. Are we good? Are we going?
Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah.
At evening came the shepherd with his flock, his woolly flock. The rams as well this time entered the cave. By some sheep-herding whim or a god's bidding, none were left outside. He hefted his great boulder into place and sat him down to milk the bleeding ewes in proper order, put the lambs to suck, and swiftly ran through all his evening chores. Then he caught 2 more men and feasted on them. My moment was at hand, and I went forward holding an ivy bowl of my dark drink, looking up, saying, "Cyclops, try some wine. Here's liquor to wash down your scraps of men. Taste it and see the kind of drink we carried under our planks. I meant it for an offering, if you would help us home, but you are mad, unbearable, a bloody monster. After this, will any other traveler come to see you?" He seized and drained the bowl, and it went down so fiery and smooth he called for more. "Give me another, thank you kindly. Tell me, how are you called? I'll make a gift will please you. Even Cyclops know the wine grapes grow out of grassland and loam in heaven's rain. But here's a bit of nectar and ambrosia." 3 bowls I brought him, and he poured them down. I saw the fuddle and flush come over him. Then I sang out in cordial tones, "Cyclops, you ask my honorable name? Remember the gift you promised me, and I shall tell you. My name is Nobody. Mother, father, and friends, everyone calls me Nobody." And he said, "Nobody's my meat then, after I eat his friends. Others come first. There's the noble gift now."
So hold on, let me pause here real quick.
Oh,
Let me pause here real quick. So so he drinks the wine, blah blah. That's great, and then he offers Odysseus offers his name essentially, and says, "I'm Nobody." And we can see here it's misspelled. This isn't obviously an English translation. In the Greek essentially it's the same thing. That it's like a misspelling, but it sounds exactly like Nobody. And so he tells the Cyclops that his name is Nobody, we'll see why that's important. Again, it's another example of Odysseus' cunning in ancient Greek understanding. So, sorry. But because that's it, maybe just because I think that might not always be clear to people. Like, what is this nobody? Why is Odysseus saying his name is nobody like this? It's literally, it sounds like nobody. I'm nobody, so. Okay, sorry, you can keep going.
Nobody. Yeah. And he said, no, there's a noble gift now. Even as he spoke, he reeled and tumbled backward, his great head rolling to one side, and sleep took him like any creature. Drunk, hiccuping, he dribbled streams of liquor and bits of men. Ugh. Now, by the gods, I drove my big handspike deep in the embers, charring it again, and cheered my men along with battle talk to keep their courage up. No quitting now. The pike of olive, green though it had been, reddened and glowed as if about to catch. I drew it from the coals, and my 4 fellows gave me a hand, lugging it near the Cyclops, as more than natural force nerved them. Straight forward they sprinted, lifted it, and rammed it deep in his crater eye, and I leaned on it, turning as a shipwright turns a drill in planking, having men below to swing the 2-handled strap that spins it in the groove. So with our brand, we bored that great eye socket while blood ran out and around the red-hot bar. Eyelid and lash were seared, the pierced ball hissed, broiling, and the roots popped.
Ugh. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And I actually think this is some of the best description that we've seen yet in the Odyssey. I think this is some of the best. Really, you really have a great image of it. It's very actually.
Yeah, the detailed violence of it is wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty enthralling. Yeah.
In a smithy, one sees a white hot axe head or an adze plunged and wrung in a cold tub, screeching steam, the way they make soft iron hale and hard. Just so, that eyeball hissed around the spike. The Cyclops bellowed and the rock roared round him, and we fell back in fear. Clawing his face, he tugged the bloody spike out of his eye, threw it away, and his wild hands went groping. Then he set up a howl for Cyclops who lived in caves on windy peaks nearby. Some heard him, and they came by diverse ways to clump around outside and call, "What ails you, Polyphemus? Why do you cry so sore in the starry night? You will not let us sleep. Sure, no man's driving off your flock. No man has tricked you, ruined you." Out of the cave, the mammoth Polyphemus roared in answer, "Nobody's tricked me. Nobody's ruined me." To this rough shout, they made a sage reply, Well, if nobody has played you foul, there in your lonely bed, we are no use in pain given by great Zeus. Let it be your father, Poseidon Lord, to whom you pray." So saying, they trailed away, and I was filled with laughter to see how like a charm the name deceived them. Now Cyclops, wheezing as the pain came on him, fumbled to wrench away the great doorstone and squatted in the breach with arms thrown wide for any silly beast or man who bolted, hoping somehow I might be such a fool. But I kept thinking how to win the game. Death sat there huge. How could we slip away? I drew on all my wits and ran through tactics, reasoning as a man will for dear life, until a trick came, and it pleased me well. The Cyclops rams were handsome, fat, with heavy fleeces, a dark violet.
Sounds good. So hold on, I'm pausing here halfway mid-verse, because what happened here? What happened essentially in this part right here that you just read?
Well, this is where Odysseus's trick comes to fruition. He says, "Call me nobody." And when the neighbors come to say, "Why are you screaming out in pain like that?" he says, "Nobody's done it to me." And
right.
They say, "Well, then leave us alone. What's wrong with you? Go, take care of your own pain."
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So he says, "Yeah, nobody's tricked me." And he's referring to Odysseus, but calling him by the fake name that he was giving. "Nobody's ruined me." And they're like, "Okay, well then no problem. Whatever." And so they go home.
Right.
Exactly right. Okay, sounds good. And so then he's like, "Okay, I need to figure out something else. What can I do?" And then I notice Cyclops' rams, because basically they're trying to figure out he's still trying to figure out how to get out of the cave.
Right. 3 abreast, he's talking about the rams. 3 abreast, I tied them silently together, twining cords of willow from the ogre's bed, then slung a man under each middle one. to ride there safely, shielded left and right. So 3 sheep could convey each man. I took the woolliest ram, the choicest of the flock, and hung myself under his kinky belly, pulled up tight, with fingers twisted deep in sheepskin ringlets for an iron grip. So, breathing hard, we waited until morning.
So what did he just do? What did he just do, Reuven?
He tied one of his men. He tied 3 rams abreast so that it would be difficult for Polyphemus to feel underneath the middle one. And he tied his man, or he set his man to hold on to the middle one. And they waited for morning. And he took the biggest, woolliest ram for himself and crawled in underneath there and hung on for dear life.
Right. So it in a certain sense, I feel like there is a certain parallel here to the Trojan horse. Like, it's not exactly, but it's the same style of deception, really, where now these sheep have been tied together, and there's one of the Greek guys hanging onto its belly underneath the ram, or excuse me, underneath the sheep, so that he doesn't know. So in the morning, obviously, right? Well, I don't need to say that yet, but basically they're so they're literally hanging underneath the rams or underneath the sheep, Yeah, and that's it. So that's what's happening.
It's the flip side of the coin. So the Trojan horse was the how do we get in there, right?
Right.
And this is how do we get out of here.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
You're absolutely right. This is the same idea presented differently. I mean, people who play chess, you play the same opening. Some is black and some is white. So you got to play it from either side.
Right.
That's all this is.
Right.
Dawn spread out her fingertips of rose. The rams began to stir, moving for pasture. And peals of bleating echoed round the pens where dams with udders full called for a milking. Blinded and sick with pain from his head wound, the master stroked each ram, then let it pass. But my men riding on the pectoral fleece, the giant's blind hands blundering never found. Last of them all, my ram, the leader, came, weighted by wool and me with my meditations. The Cyclops patted him, and then he said, "Sweet cousin ram, why lag behind the rest in the night cave? You never linger so, but graze before them all and go afar to crop sweet grass and take your stately way leading along the streams until at evening you run to be the first one in the fold. Why now, so far behind? Can you be grieving over your master's eye? That carrion rogue and his accursed companions burnt it out when he had conquered all my wits with mine. Nobody will not get out alive, I swear. Oh, had you brain and voice to tell where he may be now, dodging all my fury. Bashed by this hand and bashed on this rock wall, his brains would strew the floor, and I should have rest from the outrage. Nobody worked upon me. I should have rest from the outrage. Nobody worked upon me."
Sounds good. Okay, so you're pausing anyway. So I will say, I took a look at a couple of, I try and read a couple of like commentaries, or not commentaries, but very short commentaries on a chapter. And I don't know who it was, but some commentary I saw pointed out that, and I was like, I didn't get this vibe, and I'm getting it in this translation. I'm not getting this vibe either. It was like, one of the things that we're supposed to notice here is how sympathetic the Cyclops is, actually. So we're supposed to have some sympathy for the Cyclops here. He's just had his eye blown out, but on top of that, he's a shepherd, and he has a real tenderness towards this ram. But when I read this, I have a very different take. That was something I read, I don't know, an hour and a half ago, something like that. When I read this, I have a very different take on that. My take is very much that this is typical Homeric irony, where the reason he's speaking to the ram is not because the ram is so dear and near to him. I mean, there's something to that, but that he's completely missed the point, right? This is the typical Homeric irony that, like, a joke is that this guy is saying something that's completely off. And in German the word is schräg. That's the word I'm thinking of in my head. It's like he's missing the point. And so basically he's like, "Why are you taking so long? Oh, is it because you're so sad over me? No, it's because he's got a big heavy guy clutched to his chest." So but my read on this is that it's the Homeric irony where the ram is lagging behind. Not, he thinks it's because there's sympathy for him, but really it's because there's a heavy guy on his chest.
Way down.
And exactly. And then the other thing is that he's like, if you could tell me where that guy is, he'll never get out of this. He'll never get out of this cave. And he says that literally as he's exiting. Right, he says that literally as Odysseus is exiting. So I think that's really the point.
Right.
I don't interpret this. I don't think that we're supposed to have any sympathy for the Cyclops after our first impressions. He's eaten 6 men already, right? He was just like, "Who are you?" And then he just like bashed out their brains and then ate them. Like, I don't interpret him as a sympathetic character in any way.
No, I agree with you that this is just Homer making it look, making it more entertaining for those who are in the know.
Right. Exactly. No, I totally agree.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks
really
for reading. I
appreciate
enjoyed it.
Beautiful reading, Ruben. Really great job.